Hey folks, back with ancient cosmology, and see how long my phone records for before it stops. So anyway, this is like a French painting of the Philippines and Taiwan and Sulawesi. So it's about 20,000 years old. Lascaux Caves, Shaft, famous scene. Sorry. So yeah, you can see that basically, usually these kind of gods are shown in a different position from the one they're actually in geographically. I think that's part of the esotericism. It means like nobody can just like steal one of these maps and just use it easily without knowing the key to it. So in this case, it's this critter's front arms, legs, whatever you say, are raised in the actual geography, whereas in the Dreamtime painting, the avatar has them lowered. So that's the primary difference. Everything else is pretty similar. I mean, maybe there's some difference of the angle of Taiwan, but it's a little bit lowered compared to how far up it is there. And then there's these dots, which are, I think it's like spitting out, which are these islands along here. But yeah, this is the way its body is all like broken up. It's because the Philippines are a bunch of different islands. So yeah, trying to, like, it seems like parts of the Philippines are visible in this, but hard to tell exactly. And then there's all these lines here. I'm not sure what exactly those signify. Could even be some type of ancient writing system, or it could be part of the mainland, like China, or some kind of seamounts. Who knows? But yeah, basically the head is Zamboanga Peninsula there. It's like kind of has a snake head and like I don't know what kind of body. So yeah, Sulawesi of the Philippines, of Indonesia, which has the oldest cave painting on Earth. And then the Philippines and Taiwan. So yeah, they're connected via these like seamounts that also, I think, have islands along them. But it seems like some of the parts are visible, like this part here seems to match with like up here. Like this part here is probably like this in here at least. The kind of more blank areas in here seem to be like probably this area and this area. And then yeah, there's the more solid part, which is probably Luzon. The solid part here being Mindanao. And then you can even see that the legs are basically disconnected. You know, there's a full, like, you know, break between the upper, you know, shoulders or whatever, and arms, and then the actual legs. So that makes sense. And then, yeah. So this is more of this, showing also Papua and Borneo. So yeah, I think that this is Borneo down here. And I think these are two peninsulas of Borneo, probably this one and this one. And then this thing here is Palawan, which is right here, actually. So Palawan is totally, or kind of rearranged. Because it's like this guy here, who's this guy, is fighting against the bird on a pole, who's Palawan. So right here, the bird on the pole is like on his back, basically. Because he just went womp and like smacked, you know, he started like here with his legs down, front legs down, and then he went up like that, bam, and he knocked the bird like head over heels this way. So now this, you know, situation is upside down. The bird's here and the pole's here. And these three, you know, 6 dots are these dots here. And it has actually, I think, you can't see it in this version, but I think there's dots that go down to there. So I think that signifies that these dots go down to there, to Borneo. And yeah. So this is like the bird. Oh, this is lame. But yeah, that sucks. They're not trying to show it, I guess. I'll just have to open image in new tab. Yeah. So that's the bird. And so even the bird's in a different position, like its tail is like in reality, its tail is like perked up, but in this, it's more straight back. But then there's Papua, who also includes New Britain and the Solomon Islands. And so like this stuff it's not exactly maybe how it is shown. It's like how it's shown is kind of like this, except that this part is back down here. So it's like action shot, boom. And then this part here, the atlatl, the spear thrower of the Birdman, is up here actually. In reality, is the Lesser Sunda Islands. And so I think that like it could be that, yeah, I'm not sure if all of the Lesser Sundas are part of the atlatl, or maybe this big island here could actually be his hand holding it. That I'm not sure about. So yeah, I think, you know, that this is his arm. This sea mount is his arm. And then this, I suspect that his other arm is somehow this other sea mount, even though it's kind of weirdly positioned because it's so far down. But in the laws of like symbolic magic. It doesn't really matter. You can do whatever. So at least the shape of it certainly matches the shape of this. And it's certainly shown lower than the other arm. But it could also, the depiction could also relate to like this peninsula, I guess, because the arm is kind of shown with two parts, so that could be the upper part of it. Hard to know. So anyway, this is my next class that I'm gonna, free class I'm teaching, Downtown Santa Cruz Library. Thursday, July 24th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., Downtown Santa Cruz Library, upstairs community room. So it's going to be about Gobekli Tepe, 10,000 BC temple school map in Turkey. And so yeah, this just shows like how it maps out Northern America and northeastern Siberia. Yep. It's like this one is like what I did here was, like in this map, all the islands are retrograde. They're all flipped backwards. So, but all the land is prograde except for Costa Rica and surrounding areas like Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and northern Panama are shown retrograde as well there. But otherwise, the rest of the mainland is prograde, and all these islands are retrograde. But more than that, like actually, it's like a whole section of the islands or of the sea is retrograde, with even Florida, because this is showing Florida as the legs of this bird and its long beak being Delmarva up here. But then it's shown to have this kind of tummy shelf sticking out, which it doesn't exactly have in that way, but it does if you flip it. If you flip this part so that this part is here, then it matches pretty well. And then also it matches with these islands, because here's Cuba is pointing this way, but in reality it's pointing this way, and it's on this side, whereas this one, Haiti and Inagua, are actually over to the east of there, as opposed to the west on there. So I took, and then same with like this here is even further to the west. This is Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and the Leeward Islands or whatever. And but it's actually the furthest to the east of these three. So these three are just totally flipped in their orientation and their order. So I flipped them all the other way. So here you see like his tummy here because I flipped it, so its butt is also its belly. And then we see Cuba, Haiti, Inagua, and Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands and the Leeward Islands, all as they are shown on, or closer to how they're shown on the stela in this order. So, but I used too big of an image that's too blurry, so I think if I really want to do that, I have to fine-tune it a bit. I mean, I've messed around with that concept before a bit, but I might do it some more. I'm just trying to do these ones where I add on, you know, a separate image of the rest of America, the rest of North America and Central America, and just graft it on so I can fit it all in with this, basically shrink it this part down and attach it, and yeah. So it kind of works, but there's kind of not enough room for stuff, so you got awkward stuff like that. But this one I think is better, arguably. Alright. What else we got? Papua, Busawanga the bird, Papua the birdman. So yeah. It's like this one's decent, but when I print it out, it's the beak of New Orleans is too fine a feature and it gets lost in the printing. Can't really make it out. But yeah, you can see the row of squares that are the Great Lakes. Just as in the ancient Egyptian maps, lakes are just shown as circles. Alright. So yeah, that kind of stuff. Then, or that. Definitely was something else. Oh yeah, this maps are territories. So this will kind of explain, if my phone will let me get through it, some of this type of system in the Aboriginal Australian context, but it's pretty applicable globally in terms of traditional religion. Whenever we wish to refer, paintings by Aboriginal Australians are not immediately recognizable as maps. So just think of everything in this, how it applies to the maps that I've shown, you know, of Gobekli Tepe, of the Lascaux Caves, of the Egyptian Book of the Dead and Book of Two Ways, etc. Here, Accomplice 2100 map. Paintings by Aboriginal Australians are not immediately recognizable as maps. Nonetheless, Aborigines sometimes see them as maps, and so now do some Western anthropologists. Williams, Peterson, and Morphy. See further reading list. In Exhibit 5, we shall examine whether and in what sense the graphic representations we conventionally call Aboriginal bark paintings are maps. In particular, 3 barks that were presented to Deakin University by the Yolngu community of the Lane Hapui region of the Northeast Arnhem Land will be studied. Referred to singing the land, signing the land for more information about this community. Item 5.1 shows the location of Yolngu homeland centers in the Lane Hapui region of Northeast Arnhem Land. To avoid prejudicing the issue of whether and in what way they are maps, we shall call the barks by the name that Yolngu give them, Dulan. We write Yolngu words using the orthography that Yolngu use. For a full description, see singing the land, signing the land. The pronunciation of Yolngu words that appear in this exhibit are given in the accompanying box. First, we must consider the conceptual framework that surrounds their production and use by Yolngu. Preparing dulan is a common pastime for many Yolngu, for dulan serve a number of important purposes in the life of the community. Dulan are representations of concepts which are part of what Yolngu explain as jalkiri. Jalkiri is a generic term often translated as footprints of the ancestors. For Yolngu to say that the notion of jalkiri is structurally important in Yolngu life would be akin to an English speaker saying that the notion that material things have qualities is a basic concept in her way of life. Jalkiri is one of the network of concepts through which time, space, personhood, and community are constructed in Yolngu life. Basically ancient symbolism and mnemonics and whatnot. A person's or a clan's jalkiri could be called their songline. It refers to what English speakers have come to call the dream time or the dreaming, the other time, when the people of the two great ancestor clans socialized the landscape by living in it, thus variously creating the Dua and the Yuricha, the dual subworlds of the Yolngu world. In the course of their everyday doings, the ancestral people left their footprints and tracks, and this is now known landscape. This is the now known landscape. And talking of their jalkiri, a speaker refers to a specific series of stories, songs, dances, and graphic representations about that creative epic, as well as to the country defined by those stories, songs, dances, and graphic representations. This is the country owned by that person or group. The whole country is constituted by a network of tracks which intersect and define a framework for the political and economic processes of Yolngu society. That other time transcends the present. The landscape, in being a series of narratives related in specific ways, is also transcendent. The ancestors, frequently in the form of animals, water goannas, saltwater crocodiles, dugong, and the like, traveled from place to place, hunted, performed ceremonies, fought, and finally turned to stone or went into the ground, where they still remain, as geography and topography. The actions of these powerful beings created the world as it is known today. They gave the world its forms and its identities, its names. So their stories to memorize the form of the cosmos, especially the earth, I guess. The bush is crisscrossed with their lines of travel, and just as a person's or an animal's tracks are a record of what happened, the features of the landscape, hills, creeks, lakes, and trees, are the record or the story of what happened in the dreaming. While particular actions give name and identity to each location, the fact that together in a certain sequence, the named places constitute journeys by particular beings who themselves are related in particular ways, links all identified places into a whole. It is not only the landscape that assumes its identity at this time. All things gained their identities, their places in the scheme of things. Yolngu knowledge is coincident with the creative activity of the ancestral beings. They traversed the land and in the process created the topography. What they did then provides the names of places along the path. The identity of each place is established by its connection to other places. Their actions also link groups of people. In turn, these links are given a social form and determine the social and political processes of Yolngu life. Thus, the landscape, knowledge, story, song, graphic representation, and social relations all mutually interact, forming one cohesive knowledge network. In this sense, given that knowledge and landscape structure and constitute each other, the map metaphor is entirely opposite. The landscape and knowledge are one as maps. All are constituted through